So basically, I'm watching Cop Watch, a really good one. I'm actually gonna have to pause it, but a man was filming at a post office. A bank employee across the way had called. So basically, this Cop Watch, and it's something like Domingos gets owned or something. But been studying Cop Watch lately, and I'm really actually impressed with what is going on there. And I don't think it's, what I think it is, technology has advanced so much in cameras in the public place, people having cameras. Now you have to realize people do have the right in Texas with the proper license to own a gun. But having a camera, you know, especially on your phone, it's just what everyone does, you know. But if you have a gun on you, you have to have a proper license. Now that's not the case in all the states. Some of them you can't have a gun. This is what I mean is open carry. You can't have a gun, like in New York. You cannot have an open carry gun. It's illegal. So if you're walking around with a gun, you're going to get stopped. It's going to be prevented. If you have the proper license, you can walk around open carry in Texas. The reason why is I used to work at a bank. Now, I think it's interesting because the bank employee called on the man for having a camera, but he did not call, the bank employee did not call for the police officer having a gun on them. Now, let me explain something about banks and guns. Police officers, banks do not want a gunfight to happen. Okay, that costs them far more money than what's in that $8,000 or $10,000 that's in that teller's drawer. Okay, or even the $100,000 if they even have that at a bank, because people don't use cash as much, or $150,000 or whatever it is in that bank. That's not worth the millions of dollars a bank has to pay because someone gets shot. Now, there was an officer at a key bank, and that you can do the report on this. An officer at Key Bank took down a bank robber, okay, with his gun in the bank, and Key Bank pulled the police officer's account, meaning the bank said, "We don't want to do any business with you, officer," okay, because he shot the guy, and that cost the bank a lot of money. Okay, because they're fighting over property. Okay, now really what this video is about Paul in the Bible. Okay, this is a Christian message about the filmers and the anti-filmers. Okay, or the Christians and the anti-Christians. We should put away our swords. Okay, we are commanded by Jesus Christ to put away your sword, turn the other cheek. Okay, when you're detaining someone, you're not turning the other cheek. Okay, the man with the gun in the video, all those officers could have just jumped in their car and walked off. Okay, now the bank doesn't want him in there, and there's probably for security reasons. He was never at the bank, for one thing. So they just were trying to prevent him from going into that place because they heard from the post office that there was a man in the post office filming. Okay, so it wasn't the post office who called on him, it was the bank. Now, the reason I'm talking about Paul is because Paul was a man that knew about money. Okay, money is legal tender. Okay, remember this. Money has to do with law. Okay, Paul from the Bible wanted to go back into the temples, change the law by removing the old way and replacing it with the new covenant. Okay, he used legal terms. Paul used legal terms. Read the Bible. He used legal terms in the New Testament going against money. Money is the highest form of legality that we can have. It causes death. It causes war. And it causes these police officers to go out there. They get 50,000, maybe 60,000. Some of the higher ranking ones maybe get 70, 80,000. Some of them may even get 90,000 to go out there and enforce the law. Now, when a police officer does make an arrest, money is made. There is money made in that, okay? Depending on the reaction or depending on the person that's imprisoned, okay? Paul was arrested. Paul was a criminal. He was a murderer. But he wasn't arrested for murder. Paul was arrested for being a Christian, Okay, it was a religious choice that Rome made. Okay, also the Jewish people. And look, I have nothing against Jewish people. My wife has Jewish heritage. I have nothing against Jewish people. But the non-Jewish people that claim that Jesus Christ does not exist will face consequences. Okay, Paul was Jewish. He was from the tribe of Benjamin. Now, the reason why this Christian message on Cop Watch that was put was because the man had simply a camera. The camera's not going to do a lot of damage. All those faces can be blurred. Or they can sue the man and get money off of him. Hey, you made me look in a slanderish way on your YouTube site. You know, I'm going to sue you. There again, money is involved. Okay. So you have the filmers and the anti-filmers. Okay. There can be a person that can go, look, your camera offends me. And they're probably going to be wearing a gun because they have an open carry license. But I cannot say, your gun offends me. Have you ever been in a supermarket and you see a guy, because I'm from Texas, you see a guy who has an open carry license? Nothing against open carry. We have that right to protect ourselves. But we have the right to protect ourselves with cameras just as much as we have the right to protect ourselves with a gun. Now, if Jesus came back today, and he saw this man over here with a gun, okay, that can take the life of another man for legal reasons, for money. Okay, because that's probably the #1 reason why people lose their life because of guns. It's because of money. Or if Jesus saw the man with the camera, okay, what side is Jesus going to be on? He's going to say, the man with the gun, put away your sword and turn the other cheek. Now, the man with the camera, just grow up. You know, but I know you have to make a living because you have to feed your family. Okay. The camera's not going to do really anything to them, but take away some of their pride. And what is pride? Pride comes before the fall. Okay. So you've got the filmers and you got the anti-filmers, baby. Drive film production. When certain people ask for charity, read the book of Amos and realize in the book of Amos that there's an evil king, a person with legality. And when I mean legality, I mean money. What is legality? Legality is the highest form of goodness. When you are on the side of the law, you are on the highest form of goodness. That's what Jesus Christ hates the most. He hates legality because legality purifies the soul in an evil way. It does not purify the heart, okay? It purifies something that is evil. People use law of man, legality, law of man, to purify themselves, and they do not use Jesus Christ. Jesus Christ is not the law of man. Jesus Christ is the law of God, okay? That was God's decision. So the reason this Cop Watch affected me, and man, this stuff is better. Way better than Cops, where they just show arrest. Because see, in Cops, it's another cop show. Because in Cops, they show criminals getting arrested. And man, I'm telling you, that is just entertaining. When you see a guy lose all his freedom and running through the backyards and maybe even losing his life, you're going to be watching that stuff on Channel 33. Cops. Okay? But when you see Cop Watch, you start learning about the law of Jesus. You start learning about what's going on with the First Amendment right. What is the damage of this guy who is at a post office with a freaking camera? And they've got 7 cops coming out. He's got no gun on him. I don't know if he had drugs on him. I don't know if I didn't get to see the end of it. And if he did, you know, they could handle that and remove the drugs off. But I don't think he had drugs because this guy knew exactly what he was doing. They accused him of being on meth because he had repeated himself 6 times. But the officers repeated themselves 24 times. 24 to 25 times they asked him to put his hands or to be detained. One time they did ask him to put his hands behind his back, and this cop watch guy chose not to do it. He didn't say anything. He pleaded the fifth through most of it, and that's the most important thing. The cameraman was quiet. Okay, when you go see a movie, directed by Spielberg or Martin Scorsese, or Martin Scorsese, once he was going to be a priest, but he thought he could affect the world in a different way rather than just sitting in some room where nobody would see him, but a few people, and he would do confessions. So he decided to do what Martin Luther did and take the camera and revolutionize people's human behavior in an important way with the camera. So yes, Martin Scorsese does deserve the awards he has, just like Fellini does. And of course, Fellini was excommunicated from the Catholic Church. Okay, so I compare those two to Martin Luther. But when I'm talking about the camera, okay, and filmmaking, you don't hear them behind the camera when they're shooting a scene. When Robert De Niro is speaking, the actor, and all the lines, you hear them, but you do not hear the filmmaker speaking. They're quiet. So in this Cop Watch one, which I compare to Fellini's stuff, and I compare it to Scorsese's stuff because it was brave, he didn't say anything really. He said, I plead the fifth. I plead the fifth. The cops asked him to stand up against the wall. They asked him to turn around and put his hand behind the back. He did not put the camera down, okay? Because he was not really doing anything violent. He didn't have a gun. He didn't have any drugs. No drugs on him. He just was filming a post office, okay? I used to work for an insurance company where we went around filming people's houses, okay? We filmed people's houses. This is all because of money, legality, and everything. Insurance. We filmed people's houses all day long. All day long. We took photos of people's houses. Insurance companies takes photos of people's cars. What the bank saw was money, okay? The uncontrollable aspect of money in one instance with a guy with a camera, meaning there was money going in a different direction because he's obviously getting paid for this, okay? One of the cops said to him, oh, you're only going to get 6 hits, or 6 people are going to watch this. 6 million people are watching this guy's video. I don't know if he got arrested or not. I didn't get to see the end of it. I was so inspired. But he stood his ground with that camera. He said, I'm not putting the camera down. He did not reach for anything else. He did not say anything, and he just had the camera. We need to get used to people with cameras, and we need to embrace those troubles because we're commanded to. We are commanded to allow people to stick a camera right in our face if that needs to be the case. We are commanded to let go of our pride and put our spiritual part of ourselves, which cannot be seen. Our spirit cannot be seen. Our spirit cannot be videotaped. Our spirit cannot be on film. But the flesh can. And when we value the flesh and we tell a filmmaker to get that camera out of my face, we are valuing our flesh just like we do our money, just like we do our property, just like we do our guns, and our intent to murder and take people's lives. We want to kill. We love it. We are sinners and we love killing. The problem is Jesus Christ will put you in the lake of fire, and you will either no longer exist or burn forever. Whatever level of demon that you are, you will either do one of the two in the lake of fire. So leave those filmmakers alone, okay? Give the appropriate money to the appropriate cause. There are people that need to be filmed, okay? There are people that are starving to death in certain parts of the world that need to be filmed so that we can be reacted. Let me tell you something about World War II. There was a U-boat that sunk a certain vessel that was an American. We did choose to go into war with Germany because of that U-boat. Now, if I'm not mistaken, I don't think there was a draft. I'll have to look it up, but I don't think in World War II there was a draft. But there were photographs of people starving behind barbed wire fences in Dachau or in Germany, or wherever the different places where the concentration camps were set up, there were photos taken of these people and released to the American public. We knew they were starving. That was a camera that was put in a place that needed to be there so people can see. We need to see police officers have disorderly conduct with other people that simply just have a camera. He did not put his camera down. He did not put his camera down. And I don't know if he got arrested or not, but he did not put his camera down because he did not want to willfully comply with their legalism. Just like Paul was commanded by Jesus Christ not to comply with their legalism, but to comply with the law of God, which is Jesus Christ. See, the law of God is Jesus Christ. That's his will. Okay? That's who he complied with, Jesus Christ. So he stood his ground. I think the man's a Christian. Whether he claims to be a Christian, he said he was the fifth. Now, he did use language, okay? People, Tourette's, use language. I lived in New York for a while, and there was a guy that walked around all day long saying the F word, the GD word. He cussed, and he cussed at everybody. You know what? The police loved him. People loved him. He wore nice clothes. He probably got money from the government, but he had horrible Tourette's. He couldn't help it. He used the F word. He used every word all the time, but people loved him, and they gave him a Sony a Sony thing to listen to try to help his Tourette's and stuff. Never was he arrested for disorderly conduct. Never once. Only God knows the intent of the man's heart, okay? People could kind of see that this man with Tourette's that was being very disorderly, and using every word in the language. He would have went to jail every single day for the rest of his life. He would have been treated like a criminal because he had Tourette's, and that was disorderly. Okay. The man with the camera and cop watch did not have Tourette's. Now, he did tell the officer to F off. He said it. He didn't yell it, and he didn't point in the officer's face. The officer did point in his face. The officer did get in his space. The officer was disorderly. Okay. Now, whether that officer is part of the force or not because of the YouTube video, I don't know. That's the power of a camera. The pen is mightier than the sword and always will be. The pen is mightier than the sword. It will be, always be. So he didn't put down his pen. He didn't put down his camera. And I'm not saying that, filmmakers should go out and go on private property and just film people. You can't go on a private property with anything, whether it be a film camera or a blade of grass, or a pad and paper. But you can be on public property. Whether or not people's cameras are rolling or not, I don't know. Some people have that pride, and they don't want their pride to be shown all over the world. Their pride, their body, their temple, their legalism. Their legalism is far more important than another person's life. They get offensive over stupid things like words and the law of man. Words are the law of man. When someone offends you with their words, they're offending you with the law of man. Okay? And you're taking the side of the law of man and saying you're being offensive. Now, you can't stick your finger in someone's face. The reason why is because that finger could poke their eye or it could hurt them. You certainly can't hit anyone, and you have to turn the other cheek. But if you say F you to somebody, turn the other cheek. Walk away. If someone says, because if you don't, you're going to end up a YouTube star. If someone sticks their finger in their face, of course, they can go to jail because that's harassment. But what I know from what I've talked to police officers, and I've talked to them about the law, and I'm still trying to learn about the law, you can say whatever you want to someone. Perfectly legal. You can tell them whatever you need to tell them. It can be curse language. It can be anything. You can even yell it. You can yell it across the street. Okay? You can yell it over the, because they would be arresting every single rapper that's out there rapping, or Tourette's people that have Tourette's that can't help it. So what is harassment? I think harassment is more of a physical thing, closer to what is assault. Assault is when you're physically damaged, okay, from something. And that can be minor, like just a little bit of blood. That's still assault. Harassment, I think, is a physical thing. It can have to do with proximity. It doesn't have to. If someone sticks a camera in your face, you don't have to flip out and go crazy. You know, pride, my pride. You don't have to do that. If someone sticks a camera in your face, you don't have to. You choose to. You choose to get on the offensive. I don't really believe a lot of this whole thing about defensive. I think everything is offensive. Even when someone is being defensive, they're being offensive. I'm defending myself. I have the right to defend myself. Just recently, a guy had stole someone's truck. Okay? The guy pulled a gun out and killed him over a truck. What about the guy who was at a car lot and was a car salesman, and the guy just drove off with a car? Do you think the police are just going to shoot the guy? I mean, he drove off. Of course, if valuable property, let's say like another person was in the car and he took that guy out, I could see some defense in that. There is defense. There is defense. But people are they're too ready to go into the defensive, and that's offensive. I think it's called passive aggression or passive aggression. So we need to learn when we need to have defense. And the camera's going to show us all this. We're learning what we can and cannot do with the camera. I'm a big fan of the camera. The only thing is that I only use the camera as defense. I think it's a good way to show when people can turn the other cheek or not. And it's also a good way to tell stories and to use a pen. It's another form of using the pen. Hey, we all love using our pen to write stories. You can write stories with the camera. But anyway, I just think this is good. I'm not anti-police. I'm not against the police. I'm not against filmmakers at all. But what I am, I do think the police officers should be watched, and I think they should wear cameras. They need to be very nice. Police officers need to go to churches to learn how Christians are. Police officer should never learn foul language, and they do use foul language because I've heard it on cops. I've heard it on other where they say, you know, get the F down, and blah blah blah. They use it, okay. But a police officer should be the ultimate saint, turning the other cheek at every chance they get. Especially if it's some guy with a camera, leave him alone. Leave him alone. Okay. There's too many people, YouTube stars now. There's a lot of them because they just fall in this trap with turn your property off, turn your camera off, give me your property. That's thievery. You know, I'm in a public place. Leave me alone. This is a public place. I mean, I'm in a private area right now, but I mean, I'm saying that's what they say. I'm in a public place. I can do what I want to do. If I want to protest or if I want to, you know, I have that amendment. If you have to arrest me, I mean, go ahead, but you're going to be on camera. You know, that changes. It changes things. And now they're wearing cameras. And I think that changes things too. Those cameras always need to be on too. I think they need to put more money in the camera and less on the gun. They need don't wrong. There's nuts out there. Trust me. I saw a guy running around downtown Dallas with a hammer, and I did call the police. I call the police when I need to. The guy had a hammer, and he was trying to kill this other guy on a bicycle. And, you know, I hope the police got out there and stopped him because I wasn't going to go out there with this guy with a hammer. You know, I mean, I didn't have like a taser or anything like that. I would only use a taser and pepper spray. But pepper spray needs to be advanced where they have like a pepper spray gun or something. Pepper spray is great because you can always recover from pepper spray. You can recover from a taser. Taser's danger. You can't always recover from a gunshot. So that lethal weapon should only be used to defend the life of the police officer, and that's pretty much it, or to defend someone else's life, possibly. But I just think England has a great police force. England does. I just think that we need to reevaluate what we're doing out there with being tyrants. Paul, from the New Testament, study what Paul did. Paul changed his whole life. He was struck by lightning. He changed his whole life. He went against the law of man and the law of Benjamin. He went against the law of the Jews, okay? He did use the fact that he was Jewish to get out of some situations with the Romans, you know, and also the fact that he was a Roman citizen. He used that to get out of the situation of some arrest that some Romans were saying, you know, I'm a Roman too. I have a citizenship in Rome, you know. So he did use some legality. Paul wasn't perfect either, you know. But Paul wasn't Jesus Christ. But Paul made some points because Paul was the example. See, Paul was a murderer. He was an ultimate criminal. He was a horrible criminal. And he was the forefront of Jesus Christ. This criminal was right out there representing what Jesus Christ was about, and wrote half the New Testament, or more than half the New Testament. He wrote all the letters to the churches. So he knew this whole legality mess, this law of man, this thing of pride that we want to hang on to. Our bodies. See, the thing is that the body of the church and our bodies are two different things. We are to give ourselves as a living sacrifice, But we are to be part of the body, but we are not to take ownership. You know, these 24-hour fitness, there's nothing wrong with health, but we are not to worship the body. Let's just put it that way. So if someone puts a camera in your face, obviously you would want to turn the other cheek and just do that. Carry the armor the extra mile. Don't pick up the phone and call the police because someone put an object in your face unless they hit you with that object, you know, because then that's whenever you're being assaulted, and that's a different thing. But there's going to be, there's going to be a lot of people with cameras at concerts, in public places. People are going to have cameras now. Everybody's a filmmaker, okay? We need to learn that, hey, I'm okay. It's okay. It's not a big deal. Get used to it. There's cameras everywhere. Everybody's got Rings. Everybody's got Nest. When you push the button to the doorbell, camera comes on. You know, that's a Ring or that's a Nest. You press the button, the camera comes on. So cameras are everywhere. They're everywhere. What, you know, are we going to call the police on every doorbell in America? Because there's a camera. Everybody's got them. You know, everybody's got them on their phones. So we just need to be comfortable with cameras. Just like really what it should be is like, that guy looked at me. Okay, that's what the camera's doing. It's looking. You cannot call the police because you went to the post office and someone's looking at you unless they're just staring right in your eyes. And then you have to deal with that, you know. Well, police officer, the man was staring at me. Well, you're good looking, you know. Don't be so good looking, you know, if you don't want people to stare at you, you know. The thing is just think of the camera as an extra pair of eyes, you know. So if someone is pointing it at you or whatever, they're just looking at you, you know. Don't look at me, don't look at me, oh, don't look at me. You know, what are you going to do, make everyone go around with blindfolds? Okay, so we need to reevaluate all this stuff, but this is a really good cop watch. Really enjoyed it. It was a First Amendment audit kind of thing. But it was interesting. It was a very interesting thing.